Hello again, friends. You might recall that after the Adamu Speaks recording on intention, Adamu asked me to add my personal perspective as a supplemental video. I guess it's helpful to hear from someone that is also incarnated and is therefore also working through the same sorts of life experiences and issues as you yourself are. And so today, again, I've been asked to add my own thoughts as regard the third sacred step, action. Let me begin by saying that I have not naturally been an action-orientated person, not in this lifetime anyway. I used to have all kinds of judgments of myself. I used to believe that I was lazy, that I was a procrastinator, that I just didn't like to get things done. I used to believe that I was better at starting things than finishing them. What I'm trying to share with you here is that I'm not naturally one of life's great doers. Perhaps I'm naturally more of a thinker, or certainly I think I'm a great dreamer, which is not something that life generally rewards very well here on earth. So this is the context, and it's in this context that I share with you that I have learned in this life the profound value of action, both from a practical perspective and from a spiritual perspective. You know, a lot of people I know seem to believe that action is secondary, or maybe even unnecessary. There are people that say you can change your life by thoughts alone. I see these people sitting around talking about abundance, talking about success, talking about the achievement of all kinds of wondrous outcomes and goals. I see them very earnestly meditating upon the bountiful things they wish for themselves and for others around them. And then I see a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, they're still just exactly there, still waiting on the amazing stuff that has happened in their minds and in their dreams, but recalcitrantly just doesn't seem to want to manifest in their lives. And believe me, I'm not judging these people. Until relatively recently, I was one of them. Because you see, I understood how important intention setting was. I understood that thoughts are things. And I knew the vital importance of great attitudes like positivity and gratitude. I had simply fallen into the erroneous belief that these things were the whole enchilada. But they're not. They are the vital foundation upon which a successful reality creation is built. But a foundation is not a building, it's a foundation. And if you have the best foundation in the world, but then you stop building, well then you might as well not have built the foundation at all. Friends, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not responsible for you, for your life, for your choices, for your experiences. You are. So all I'm doing is telling you how I have applied the teachings I've received by Adamu and from Adamu and from others. I'm telling you what I have found to work in my life over and over again, what has shown itself to be successful, and what I can therefore recommend to you if you would care to try it. So to begin with, I can tell you that from my perspective, I've seen that one must, in this reality anyway, one must take action. That action is your investment in your desired outcome. It is your sign to yourself and therefore to your inner self, to the universe, to the oneness, to God, whatever. It's the sign that you are committed to this outcome. And commitment is what transforms a promise into reality. It's what makes an empty promise full with potentiality. What you put out is what you get back. I'm sure you know this to be true. And as ego beings, we have the greatest belief in action. Action speaks louder than words, so they say. And words speak louder than thoughts, but that's another issue. So examine your experience. Imagine you were at the office and the boss tasked you with something that you should do. And you didn't move, you just sat there in your chair and said, "Yeah, sure, boss. I will sit here and I will intend and visualize this thing happening for you for the rest of today. Heck, for the rest of the week, I'll just visualize and intend. How long do you think you'd remain employed? You see, intending is what comes before action. This is why it's so powerful. Intending is how you prepare to actually make it happen. But if your plan is to really just think about making it happen and not actually make it happen, then my friend, you are deceiving yourself. You are not intending. What you're doing is fantasizing, imagining, dreaming. And these are the things we do when we want to play in our minds with alternate experiences that we don't actually want to manifest in this reality. That's when we fantasize or imagine. If you truly did intend to do as the boss asked you, you might say something like, yes, sure. Give me 5 minutes to plan how I'm going to do it, and then I'll get it done. And then when you have your plans in place, well, then you get it done. That's intending, not fantasizing. And that's how it works in every aspect of life. You can intend to make breakfast all you like, but until you get up and get into the kitchen and start making, you're going to go hungry. So if it works like that in all of life, why do we think it would be any different for our spiritual life? If there is no action, no doing, no output of energy involved, then you are not invested in this creation of yours. You are not giving your own personal energy to it. And if you're not doing that, then there's nothing for the universe to take and work with, nothing to amplify, nothing to add to, nothing to assist. So that's the theory. But I have to tell you, it is also my personal experience. And it's also something that people sometimes argue with me over. When I tell people about this, I sometimes get told that I'm wrong, that thoughts alone are enough. But I notice that I'm told this by the same people who complain that life is treating them unfairly and that their manifestation efforts aren't working. So I'll leave you to decide. But I must tell you, I was one of those people. That was my struggle. But since I've begun practicing the law of action, my life is utterly changed. My intentions have begun to manifest. I've been putting things out and they have been coming back to me in bountiful abundance. So it's blatantly clear to me that action is a vital component of doing what works. The next thing I'd like to say about action is this. It is, from my perspective, how you build upon the foundation of acceptance and intention. If you just act without first laying the foundation, and you have a building and no foundation, then you might as well not act. Without that foundation, the building will just crumble and collapse. I'd like to tell you a little personal story of my own by way of an example. Some years ago, I became aware that I was on my way towards financial disaster. As a result of my choices, I was in a situation in which I was living off of my savings and did not have any real prospects for any income. This caused me some distress, I can tell you. I was fearful and anxious. So I began to hatch plans for the things that I would do to remedy the situation. And then I set about furiously working on those plans. I worked and I worked. And after many months of huge effort, there was a very, very small payoff. A little bit of income trickled in from this massive effort. You see, friends, what I was doing wrong was that I was in a state of distress. I was holding a set of beliefs rooted in lack, in poverty, in the wrongness of the world, the iniquity of the financial system, me not being enough, and fear about the future, and so on and so on. Now, with such a belief set, there really was no way I was going to be able to procure abundance for myself from life. You see, I did not begin with the acceptance Adamu speaks of. I began with all kinds of resistance and rejection and fear. And then, to compound the error, I didn't actually set an intent at all. I was simply reacting to my circumstances. Like, if a swarm of bees and wasps and things came at you, you wouldn't sit and think about what to do. You just run. In that same mode, I was purely reacting, doing the first things that came to mind. I was putting those limiting beliefs into action. I was not in any way taking the time to align my choices with universal will. I was certainly not thinking about what I truly wanted to create in my life. I was just leaping into reaction. In retrospect, I guess I have to be grateful for the little income I actually received. Now, I'd like to contrast that little story for you with my present circumstances. I don't now concern myself overly with money at all. I don't have a steady income, I don't have a job, I don't have massive investments, and money is just not top of mind for me. I don't ask myself, how on earth am I going to make such and such an amount by such and such a date? Or anything like that. Instead, I hold the intention that I always have everything I need to do what my heart calls me to do. And then I do what my heart calls me to do. That's it. That's the whole of my financial plan. And friends, believe it or leave it, I always have everything I need and then some. Life is generous and kind to me. I am not what you would call financially wealthy. I'm wealthy in all kinds of other ways. I'm not what you would call financially wealthy. I don't have massive investments or anything like that. But that's because I don't believe I need massive investments to feel safe. To the contrary, I feel they would be a burden upon my mind. I always have everything I need to do what I need to do. But I don't want to veer too deeply into financial philosophy. That's not the topic under discussion at all. I'm just telling you what works for me. And it's not just action, but action taken mindfully and in perfect congruence with a clearly set intention, all the while remaining in a state of loving acceptance of myself and life. So, acceptance, intention, action. That is what works for me, and I cannot recommend this way of being highly enough. If you're interested, I'd like to tell you about the specific things that I am now doing, and the specific things I'm now no longer doing as a result of my new intention. As you might remember, my new intention, as shared with you in a previous video, is that I am giving my gift more fearlessly and abundantly to every part of life that wishes it. That's the intention I've recently set. The specific actions that I'm now taking in support of that intention come to me from my heart. I hold that intention and my heart tells me what to do. Perhaps you've come across the open letter Adamu wrote through me to the Illuminati quite recently. It caused a bit of a stir in certain circles. Well, that was the first action that I took in response to this intention. The very first step in the direction of the achievement of my intention. My heart said, do this thing. And I'm busy preparing for the next step, which will be the next of Adamu's expressions through me. These are the things that I'm doing. Those expressions are my actions that I'm doing to put energy out into the universe. And yes, this very video that I'm now recording is also another such an action. And when I have taken these steps, I know that by listening to my heart, I will be told what the following steps are. I'm not asked by my heart to rush these steps. I'm asked to take them at a good, measured, but steady pace, as the information arrives for me, as it's ready to pass through my mind. So I'm asked to write it down and to make it available to you. And friends, it's only been a few weeks since I've been enacting my intention. But I can tell you already there is a qualitative difference in my life. There is a lightness and a freedom and a feeling of abundance in my heart. And that's being reflected back to me by life. There is suddenly an upswing of interest in what I'm doing. I have new people subscribing to my newsletter at a massively accelerated rate. I have new clients signing up for my services, and my other offerings, such as the Dreamer Awake material, is suddenly selling at an accelerated rate, a lot better than ever before. Why am I telling you this? Because it means something. You see, the world around you is a reflection of you. Or rather, more accurately, the world you see around you is reflecting your beliefs back to you. And in taking a step in the direction of your intention, you take concrete action to bring your intentions to fruition. You change your beliefs about yourself and about life when you do this. And life reflects these changed beliefs back to you. So as I begin to give my gift abundantly and fearlessly as per my intention, so life gives back to me abundantly and fearlessly, apparently. That's the theory. And it's with joy that I can report that that certainly is my experience too. Not just with this newest intention, this newest one that I'm sharing with you, reporting to you, and writing up for you and making videos about, but it's since I have been living with the law of action, which I've known about for a little while. It has shown itself over and over and over to be powerfully true to me. But with this latest intention, there was also something I had to stop doing. I'm quite ashamed to admit that I recently found myself indulging in hatred. I don't really wish to tell you all of the details because firstly, it won't really add to the message, and secondly, I don't wish to energize this any further, and thirdly, honestly, I don't want to talk about it because I'm ashamed. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it without all the details. If you follow the news at all, and if you engage online at all, if you read Facebook or if you visit forums or things like that online, perhaps you will have noticed all the many, many invitations that are out there for us to look at one group of people or another and find them unworthy of love. To even see them as less than self. There are those that are like me and those that are not like me, and this lot is okay and that lot is not okay. They're less, they're unworthy. To think of them even as inherently wrong or even evil. To find hatred inside of yourself for them. There's a tremendous amount of that going on right now. And some of this started to impact me. Now I know I'm not alone in this. I mean, what else is racism, sexism, classism, tribalism, homophobia, and who knows what other excuses that we use to hate ourselves? That's what it's all about. The hatred that exists when a member of a particular demographic lumps the members of any other demographic into a group and says, I hate those guys. I'm ashamed to say that I obviously allowed some of the plethora of news stories and personal anecdotes that I found on the internet recently to pull me off center about a particular group. It doesn't now matter which group it is. What matters is that I actually felt myself get ill with this. I've been working quite diligently these past many years to raise my own vibration towards oneness. And it's been paying off. My consciousness is raised. I am attaining unity consciousness. And for this very reason, it seems I can now no longer hold the kinds of beliefs that allow for hatred in my mind. As I was doing this, I wasn't aware that this was causing the problem, but as I was doing this, I started to develop the most horrible nagging headache that would not go away despite taking pain pills. I felt ill in my body too, and I noticed my mood turn sour and intractable and grumpy. And all of this just got worse and worse and worse. And I really began to feel incredibly toxic. I realized I needed to do something. And so yesterday, I took the whole day off. I decided the day is all about healing. I was going to figure out what's wrong, why it's wrong, and how to fix this thing. So I spent the day largely in meditation. I went inside to listen. And I connected with my divine self, with the inner guru that we all have inside of ourselves. I connected with that, and I was helped to understand that I cannot continue to choose in this fashion. I was helped to understand that I was choosing and creating hatred. I was choosing to see the stories that others were telling that allowed me to take this hateful perspective. You see, there truly is nothing but peace in my own life. I don't have hateful, angry, disturbing people around me. I live a very blessed, peaceful life. No animosity, no painful interactions with anybody. I don't fight with people. I don't have people bring this kind of a response up in me. So I was actually going out there on the internet and taking the stories that others were telling about their pain, which comes to them as a result of their choices, their beliefs, their experiences. I was taking that on board and using that to make choices for myself and fuel an entirely unnecessary and even self-destructive mindset within myself. Now, I could probably talk about all of this at much greater length. I could probably tell you a bit about what I've discovered about hatred and what I've discovered about making authentic choices as compared to proxy choices, and so on and so forth. But that would all be quite a different topic. What we're talking about here is the law of action. And specifically, I'm telling you of an action or of a class of actions that I became aware that I was taking that was carrying me in the opposite direction of my stated intention. I became aware that I must cease forthwith. Not only is it counterproductive, but it's also self-destructive. And so I chose to cease taking my emotional and moral direction from news stories, from the alternative media, from personal accounts and anecdotes on the internet and blogs that I might read, and instead to take that direction from my own deepest knowing. And my deepest knowing on the subject is that all of life is a manifestation of the divine. In the center of every single person alive is a divine being. And that divine being is part of the same oneness to which I belong, which is another way of saying that I am ultimately one with everyone. This is undeniably true for me. I know this to be true. And so hating these other selves is silly, it's purposeless, and it's also self-destructive. Yeah, many parts of the one are terribly lost. Many are horribly traumatized. Many are soul sick with their pain. And so many are doing abominable and atrocious things as a result of their pain. Maybe it's even so that there are particular groups of people that can be identified that are doing worse things than other groups. That may be so. Or it may be so that there are those who have an agenda to whip up our hatred against each other into such a fine froth that the war that they desire might happen, or that they can manipulate us by our fear and by our anger in other ways. This may also be so. What I'm really saying is that I find it doesn't matter to me what the story is. It doesn't matter better or worse, or whether I'm being manipulated, or because all of that is a story, and it's not my story. And I don't need to allow myself to be pulled off of my deepest truth, out of my center, because of someone else's story. I don't need that. So I spent the whole day yesterday deep in spiritual work, and I discovered the cause of my physical illness being hatred. And I worked to let go of the toxic beliefs that were underpinning and allowing that hatred. And I got right to the root of it, and I let it all go in all of its guises, because I do not need to hate any group. So I let it all go. I did some body work too, to help my body to heal after I'd released all of that harm from my mind, and then I connected with my divine self, and I allowed unconditional love to flow out into the vacuum left by that hurt. And most of all, I allowed a little wisdom to flower in my heart. I allowed myself to come to a new choice, not to do this kind of thing again. It's possible for me to get angry. It's possible for me to get scared. And if I can be made to feel both angry and scared of a person or a group, it's possible for me to get whipped up into full-blown hatred. So I notice all that. And now I choose, whenever I can, whenever I find myself heading in that direction, to go instead to my own center, to go to my deepest truth, to replace that hatred before it can even begin with understanding and compassion. Now, I don't want you to think that this makes me a pushover. I'm not talking about someone transgressing against me, because if that happens, I'm very strong on boundaries, and I make sure that life treats me justly. So that's something else entirely. What I'm actually talking about here is learning to hate because of other people's stories. I'm choosing to see beyond stories. I'm choosing not to hate. I'm choosing to listen to my heart and to take all the actions that lead me to the desired outcome that I've set, my intent, and to cease taking the counterproductive actions that carry me in the opposite direction. And so that is what I wanted to share with you. So please, dear friends, if you are taking Adamu's teachings to heart as I am, please ask yourself, what baby step can I take right now that will take my life a small little bit in the direction of the fulfillment of my intention? Or perhaps, what project can I begin to work upon that will take me a giant leap forward in the direction of my intent? Answer those questions, and then do that. And then keep doing that. Keep taking steps towards your desired outcome. Baby steps every day, or giant leaps every now and again, whatever works best in your life. And if you find yourself floundering with all the usual pressures of life, and if you find yourself missing a day or a week, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Forgive yourself, love yourself, move on. Pick it up again as soon as you can. And as soon as you can, just keep at it. Keep doing something as regularly as is right for you, that is in alignment with your self-stated intention. And equally importantly, keep releasing those counterproductive choices. Keep rooting out the things that you are holding onto that are undoing your good work. Keep exploring inside of yourself to find the reasons for these actions. Keep loving yourself. Keep trusting yourself. Keep respecting yourself and healing yourself. And in this way, you will be carrying yourself forwards on the path of the fulfillment of your heart's desires. This way, you'll be enacting the law of action. And you know how that works. It takes what you put out, and then it multiplies it with universal will. And when that happens, after some time, it begins to come back to you. That is when you will notice the magic beginning to happen, as I myself have already begun to notice in my life. But the noticing and the multiplying and all of that, that's going to be discussed at greater length in the following Adamu Speaks videos, which I will be recording for you soon. And with that, I leave you. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.